We're told that motherhood is instinct, that when you hold a child, something ancient and holy awakens inside you, transforming you into exactly what that innocent life needs. The fairy tales promise us that love conquers all, that goodness is rewarded, that the right heart always finds its way home. But when you're standing in a snowstorm at 3 in the morning, cradling 2 dying infants that aren't yours, while their real mother walks away without looking back, you discover a truth that shatters everything. The world doesn't run on love. It runs on choices. And some people choose themselves every single time. My name is Kira Thorne, and I am no one. I'm not a Luna. I'm not royalty. I shift into a small gray wolf that no one looks at twice. I was rejected by my mate, the Alpha King, on what should have been our mating ceremony. That was 5 years ago. I, Damon Blackwood, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, reject you, Kira Thorne, as my mate and future Luna. One sentence. My entire life ended. I survived it. I moved to the edges of pack territory and built a life out of quietness and solitude. I became a healer for those too poor or too ashamed to see official pack doctors. Then came the night that changed everything. 2 infant boys, abandoned in a snowstorm by the Luna herself, left to die. I saved them, raised them, loved them as my own. For 5 years, no one came looking. Until tonight. Chapter 1. The Rejection. 5 years earlier. The mating ceremony was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I'd spent weeks preparing, learning the traditional rituals, memorizing the ancient words, trying on the ceremonial dress that had been worn by Lunas for generations. The silk was heavy, embroidered with silver thread that caught the moonlight, and when I looked at myself in the mirror, I almost believed I could be the woman Damon needed. Almost. My wolf had been restless for days, pacing beneath my skin with an anxiety I couldn't name. She should have been excited. We'd found our mate. The bond had snapped into place 6 months ago, and tonight we would complete the ceremony that would tie us together forever. But instead, she whined and retreated, like she knew something I refused to see. The ceremony took place in the grand hall of the pack house, under the full moon that streamed through the massive skylights. Hundreds of pack members filled the space, alphas, betas, omegas, all dressed in their finest, all waiting to witness their king claim his Luna. I stood at the altar, my hands trembling, and watched Damon walk toward me. He was beautiful. There was no other word for it. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell just past his collar and eyes that shifted between human brown and wolf gold, depending on his mood. He moved with the kind of confidence that came from being born into power, from never having to question whether he belonged. When he reached me, he didn't smile. That should have been my first warning. The priestess began the ceremony, her voice echoing through the hall as she recited the ancient words. I barely heard them. All I could focus on was Damon's face, searching for some sign of the warmth he'd shown me during our courtship. The way he'd touched my cheek and told me I was different from the others. The way he'd kissed me under the stars and promised me forever. But tonight, his expression was carved from stone. Do you, Damon Blackwood, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, accept this woman as your mate, your Luna, your equal in all things? Damon's jaw tightened. The silence stretched too long. Damon? The priestess prompted, uncertainty creeping into her voice. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood turn to ice. Disgust. I need to speak with my intended, he said, his voice flat. Privately. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The priestess frowned but nodded, stepping back. Damon grabbed my arm, not gently, not the way a mate should touch, and pulled me toward a side room. The moment the door closed behind us, he released me like I'd burned him. Tell me it isn't true, he said. My heart hammered against my ribs. Tell you what isn't true. The medical report. The one from the pack doctor. His eyes flashed gold. Tell me you didn't hide this from me. The room tilted. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. His voice cracked like a whip, and I flinched. The doctor performed a standard examination on all potential Lunas. It's protocol, and you know what he found? Tears burned behind my eyes, but I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. You're barren, Kira. Infertile. Your womb is He cut himself off, his hands clenching into fists. You can't give me heirs. The words hit me like physical blows. I didn't know, I whispered. I swear, I didn't know. No one told me. It doesn't matter. His voice had gone cold, distant. I am the Alpha King. My bloodline must continue. The pack needs heirs. I need heirs. We could adopt, I said desperately, hating how small my voice sounded. Or there are treatments, medical advances. No. The finality in that single word destroyed me. I can't risk it. I can't tie myself to someone who can't fulfill the most basic requirement of a Luna. The most basic requirement? Anger flared through my devastation. I thought partnership was the requirement. Love, trust. Love is a luxury, Damon said. And he wouldn't even look at me anymore. Leadership is a responsibility, and I won't fail my pack, because I was too weak to make the hard choice. He turned toward the door, and I realized with dawning horror what was about to happen. Damon, please. I'm sorry, Kira. He didn't sound sorry. He sounded relieved. You're a good woman. You'll find someone else. Someone who doesn't need. Don't you dare. My voice broke. Don't you dare make this sound noble. You're rejecting me because I'm broken. Say it. He finally met my eyes. You're not broken. You're just not right for me. Somehow, that was worse. He opened the door, and we walked back into the hall. Every eye turned to us. I could feel their curiosity, their judgment, their pity already forming before they even knew what was happening. Damon stepped forward, addressing the crowd with the same commanding voice he used for all official declarations. There will be no ceremony tonight. Gasps. Whispers. My mother's hand flew to her mouth in the third row. I, Damon Blackwood, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. He paused, and for just a moment, something like regret flickered across his face, but then it was gone, replaced by the mask of a king doing his duty. Reject you, Kira Thorne, as my mate and future Luna. The bond between us, the invisible thread that had connected our souls for 6 months, snapped. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't clean. It was agony. I felt it tear through my chest like a blade, severing something fundamental and leaving a wound that would never fully heal. My wolf howled inside me, thrashing and screaming, and I collapsed to my knees right there on the altar. No one moved to help me. Through the haze of pain, I heard Damon continue speaking. The position of Luna remains open. I will begin accepting petitions from eligible females immediately. Eligible. The word tasted like poison. My father appeared beside me then, his face flushed with shame, not concern, not sympathy. Shame, because his daughter had humiliated him in front of the entire pack. Get up, he hissed, hauling me to my feet. You're making a scene. Making a scene. As if I was the problem. As if I'd chosen this. He dragged me out of the hall, past hundreds of staring faces, and I felt every single one of their eyes on my back like brands. The rejected mate. The broken woman. The girl who couldn't even keep an Alpha King. My father didn't speak to me on the drive home. When we arrived at our house, he finally broke his silence. You knew, he said. You had to have known. I didn't. Don't insult me. His voice was harsh. You knew you couldn't bear children. And you pursued the Alpha King anyway. Do you understand what you've done to this family? The shame you've brought on us. I loved him, I whispered. Love. He spat the word like a curse. Love doesn't keep a roof over your head, Kira. Status does. Power does. And you just threw away the greatest opportunity our family has ever had. I stared at my father, this man who was supposed to protect me, support me, and saw only disappointment. Get out, he said. What? You heard me. Pack your things and get out. I won't have you living under my roof, dragging our name further through the mud. Your sister is about to come of age, and she actually has a chance at making a good match. I won't let you ruin that for her too. My sister. Beautiful, fertile, perfect Lyra. The daughter who'd done everything right. I wanted to fight, to scream, to make him see how cruel he was being. But I was so tired, so broken, so hollowed out by rejection and pain, that I couldn't find the energy to defend myself. So I packed a bag, I took what little money I'd saved, and I left. I walked through the pack territory in the middle of the night, still wearing the ceremonial dress that now felt like a mockery. My wolf was silent, curled up in some deep corner of my soul where the pain couldn't reach her. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. At the edge of the territory, where the forest grew thick and wild, I found an old cabin. It had belonged to my grandmother before she died, a place she'd used for gathering herbs and escaping the politics of pack life. No one had maintained it in years. It was perfect. I spent the next 3 months in a fog. I barely ate, barely slept. I existed in that space between living and dying, where nothing mattered and everything hurt. Slowly, painfully, I started to rebuild. I cleaned the cabin. I planted a garden. I learned my grandmother's healing recipes from her old journals, and I made a promise to myself. I would never let anyone make me feel worthless again. I would survive this. I would build a life out of the ashes of my rejection. I would be okay. I believed that promise for 5 years. Until the night I found the babies. Chapter 2. The Choice. Present day. The storm hit without warning, the way the worst things in life always do. I was grinding dried lavender for a sleep tincture, when the temperature dropped so suddenly that frost spread across my window in seconds. The wind picked up, howling through the trees with a sound that made my wolf stir uneasily. "Storm coming," she whispered. "Bad one." I moved quickly, securing the shutters and bringing in extra firewood. Living on the edge of pack territory meant being prepared for anything: harsh weather, rogue wolves, the occasional curious human who wandered too far into the forest. I'd learned to be self-sufficient, to trust my instincts, to survive alone. The snow started falling fast and thick, the kind that accumulated inches in minutes. I was about to settle in for the night when I heard it. Crying. At first, I thought it was the wind playing tricks, but my wolf's ears were sharper than my human ones, and she'd caught something that made her surge forward with sudden urgency. Pup. That's a pup crying. I grabbed my heaviest cloak and ran outside into the blizzard. The cold hit me like a wall, the kind of cold that could kill an adult wolf in hours, let alone something smaller and more vulnerable. I followed the sound, my boots crunching through snow that was already ankle deep, and then I saw them. 2 tiny bundles, barely visible against the white ground. Dark hair plastered to small heads. Silk blankets. Expensive, embroidered with the royal crest, completely inadequate for the weather. Their cries were weakening, becoming softer, and that terrified me more than if they'd been screaming. But it was the woman standing nearby who made my blood freeze. She was ethereal, even in the storm. White blonde hair that seemed to glow in the darkness, pale skin, ice blue eyes. She wore a traveling cloak lined with fur, and she was staring down at the infants with an expression I couldn't read. Not quite disgust, not quite indifference, something colder. Luna Celine. I'd never met her in person, but everyone in the Northern Territories knew what the Alpha King's chosen mate looked like. She'd been presented to the pack 2 years after my rejection, a princess from the Eastern Territories, beautiful and fertile, and everything I wasn't. Within a year, she'd given birth to twin sons, the heirs Damon needed so desperately. And now she was standing in a blizzard, watching those heirs die. "Wait!" I screamed, running toward her. "What are you doing? Those are your children." She turned to look at me, and for a moment, our eyes met. There was no recognition in her gaze. She had no idea who I was. Why would she? I was nobody, a rejected mate, living in exile. But I saw something in her expression that I'll never forget. Not cruelty, not even anger. Just emptiness, like she was looking at objects she decided to discard. "They're not mine anymore," she said, her voice barely audible over the wind. "They never were." Before I could respond, she shifted. Her body transformed into a massive white wolf, larger than any I'd seen, with fur that blended perfectly with the snow. She didn't look back. She simply ran, disappearing into the storm within seconds. I fell to my knees beside the infants. They were dying. I could see it in the blue tint of their lips, the way their tiny chests barely moved, the weakness of their cries. Hypothermia had already set in. Minutes mattered. Maybe even seconds. I didn't think. Couldn't think. I just gathered them both into my arms. So small, so fragile, their combined weight, barely more than a sack of flour, and ran. My cabin had never seemed so far away. The storm fought me with every step, wind pushing me back, snow blinding me. My arms ached from holding them, from keeping them pressed against my chest, where my body heat might keep them alive long enough. Please, I begged the moon, the goddess, anyone who might be listening, please don't let them die. I burst through my door and immediately started stripping away their frozen clothes. Their skin was ice cold, almost gray. One of them, the smaller one, wasn't crying anymore. His eyes were closed, his body limp. No. I built up the fire until the cabin was sweltering, then wrapped both infants skin to skin against my bare chest, covering us all with every blanket I owned. I could feel my own body heat radiating into them, willing warmth back into their tiny frames. The larger twin started to respond first, a whimper, then a weak cry, then finally a full-throated wail. That was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard, but his brother remained silent and still. I grabbed my grandmother's journal with shaking hands, flipping through pages I'd memorized, but suddenly couldn't remember. Hypothermia in infants, frostbite, respiratory distress. I made poultices for their extremities, hands and feet that had turned dangerous shades of purple and white. I brewed a warm herbal tonic, diluted it, and used a dropper to get it into their mouths, one painstaking drop at a time. I massaged their tiny chests to stimulate circulation. I sang every lullaby I could remember, my voice cracking with exhaustion and fear. And I prayed. Hours passed. The storm raged outside. Inside, I was locked in a battle for 2 lives I didn't know but somehow couldn't bear to lose. When the smaller twin finally opened his eyes, golden eyes, I noticed just like his father's, and let out a small indignant cry. I broke down sobbing. They were going to survive. I held them both as dawn broke, their breathing steady now, their color returning. They were beautiful, perfect, innocent in a way that made my chest ache. Who abandons children like this? What kind of mother walks away from her own babies and leaves them to die? But even as I thought it, I knew the answer. The kind of mother who never wanted them in the first place. The kind who saw them as obligations, rather than blessings. The kind who valued her own freedom more than their lives. I should have contacted the Alpha King immediately. Should have sent word to the pack that his sons were safe, that his Luna had tried to kill them, that they needed to be returned to the castle. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the memory of my own rejection. The way Damon had looked at me with disgust when he learned I couldn't give him children. The way he'd prioritized his bloodline over everything else, including love. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe it was the way the smaller twin curled his tiny fist around my finger. The way the larger one nuzzled against my chest, seeking warmth and comfort. The way they looked at me with complete trust, as if I was the only safe thing in their entire world. They needed me, and goddess help me, I needed them too. I told myself it would be temporary, just until they were stronger, just until I could figure out the right way to return them without getting caught up in whatever political nightmare had led to their abandonment. Days passed, then a week, then a month. No one came looking for them. I listened to pack gossip whenever I went into town for supplies. The official story was that Luna Celine had taken the twin princes to visit her family in the Eastern Territories, that they were being showered with gifts and affection, that they'd return in a few months, happy and healthy. No one questioned it. No one seemed concerned. Certainly no one suspected that the Luna had tried to murder her own children. And the Alpha King? There were rumors that he was consumed with kingdom business, that he barely saw his sons even when they were home, that he'd become cold and distant, more interested in power than family. The man who'd rejected me because he needed heirs didn't even notice when those heirs disappeared. So I made a choice, the kind of choice that should have torn me apart with guilt, but instead felt like the most right thing I'd ever done. I kept them. I named them in secret, Ash and River, after the ash trees that surrounded my cabin, and the river that ran behind it. Names that belonged to nature, not royalty. Names that would let them grow up without the weight of a crown crushing them. I watched them grow from fragile infants into strong, curious toddlers. Ash was quiet and thoughtful, always watching everything with those golden eyes. River was louder, quicker to laugh, with a mischievous streak that kept me constantly on my toes. They learned to walk, holding my hands. Their first words were mama and more. They cried when they had nightmares, and I was the one who held them until they felt safe again. I taught them about healing herbs and forest animals. I told them stories about brave wolves and clever foxes. I showed them how to be kind, how to be gentle, how to see the beauty in small things. I never told them who they really were, never mentioned their father the king, or their mother who'd left them to die, or the destiny that should have been theirs. They were just Ash and River, my boys, my heart. 5 years passed in a blur of scraped knees and bedtime stories and moments so perfect they hurt. I lived in constant fear that someone would discover them, that I'd be punished for keeping the Alpha King's heirs, that they'd be torn away from me. But I also lived in joy, pure, uncomplicated joy of the kind I'd never thought I'd experience. These children loved me not because of what I could give them, or what status I held, or whether my body worked the way it was supposed to. They loved me because I was there, because I chose them every single day. Until tonight. Tonight, when I heard the knock on my door, firm, authoritative, unmistakable, and opened it to find Damon Blackwood standing on my threshold, I knew that everything was about to change. Chapter 3. The Alpha King's Return. For a moment, neither of us moved. Damon stood in my doorway, flanked by 2 guards, and he looked exactly the same as I remembered. Dark hair, strong jaw, eyes that shifted between brown and gold. 5 years, and he hadn't aged a day. Power did that to alphas. Kept them young, kept them strong, kept them untouchable. But there was something different about him now. Something haunted in his expression that hadn't been there before. "Kira," he said, and my name sounded strange coming from his mouth after so long. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My body had locked up the moment I saw him, every instinct screaming at me to slam the door, grab the boys, and run. But it was too late for running. Ash and River peeked out from behind my skirt, their small hands gripping the fabric. They were curious, but not afraid. They'd never learned to fear strangers because I'd kept them so isolated, so safe. Damon's gaze dropped to them, and I watched his entire face transform. Confusion first. His brow furrowed as he took in their features, the dark hair, the golden eyes that were unmistakably his own. Then recognition, dawning slowly like a horrible sunrise. His mouth opened slightly, and the word came out as barely more than a whisper. "No." "Damon," I started, but he pushed past me into the cabin, his guards moving to follow. I stepped in front of them. "Wait outside." To my surprise, Damon nodded at them, and they retreated. The door closed, leaving the 4 of us alone. The boys had scattered to their corner of the room where their toys were, carved wooden animals I'd made for them, blocks, simple things. They watched Damon with wide eyes, not understanding why this stranger had made their mama so tense. Damon stared at them like he was seeing ghosts. "These are my sons," he said. Not a question. A statement of fact that he was still trying to comprehend. "Yes. My sons, who have been missing for 5 years, who Celine told me died shortly after birth, from a wasting sickness." His voice was getting louder, anger bleeding through the shock. "My sons, who I mourned, who I held funerals for, He cut himself off, his hands clenching into fists. "She lied," I said quietly. "She didn't just lie, she tried to kill them." I told him everything. The storm, finding them abandoned and dying, Celine walking away without looking back, the months I'd waited for someone to come looking, the realization that no one was coming. With every word, Damon's face grew paler. By the time I finished, he looked like he might be sick. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded. "Why didn't you bring them to me immediately?" "Because I didn't trust you." The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I didn't take them back. "You rejected me, because I couldn't give you heirs. You chose Celine specifically because she could. And then you were so consumed with your kingdom, that you didn't even notice when your sons disappeared. Why would I believe you'd protect them?" They're my children. They're mine. My voice was steel. I'm the one who saved them, fed them, held them when they were sick, taught them to walk and talk and laugh. You might be their father by blood, but I'm their mother in every way that matters. Damon looked like I'd struck him. You had no right. I had every right. I stepped toward him, and to his credit, he didn't back down. She left them to die. Damon, your perfect Luna, your fertile mate, tried to murder her own children. And you want to talk to me about rights? Mama? Ash's small voice cut through the tension. He'd crept closer, his face worried. Why are you yelling? I immediately dropped to my knees, pulling him into a hug. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Everything's okay. River joined us, wrapping his arms around my neck. Damon made a sound, something between a laugh and a sob. When I looked up, his eyes were wet. They call you Mama, he said. That's what I am. And they don't know me at all. It wasn't an accusation. It was grief, raw and overwhelming, and despite everything between us, I felt a flicker of sympathy. What do you want, Damon? He dragged a hand through his hair, looking suddenly exhausted. Celine is gone. She left 3 days ago, took everything of value from her chambers, and vanished. I've had guards searching everywhere, and today one of them reported seeing her heading toward your cabin 5 years ago, during a storm. I came here to ask if you'd seen her, if you knew anything, and instead I find. He gestured helplessly at the boys. I want my sons back, he said finally. They're the heirs to the Northern Territories. They belong in the castle, not hidden away in some cabin. They're happy here. They deserve more than this. They deserve to be loved. My voice cracked. They deserve to be more than political tools or symbols of your bloodline. They deserve a childhood where they're wanted for who they are, not what they represent. You think I wouldn't love them? Damon's eyes flashed gold. They're my sons, Kira, my blood. Of course I'd love them. The way you loved me? The question hung in the air between us, heavy and poisonous. Damon's jaw worked. That was different. Was it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you only value people for what they can give you. And the moment they can't give you what you want, they're disposable. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I was shaking now, 5 years of repressed anger finally breaking free. You destroyed me, Damon. You rejected me in front of everyone, let my family cast me out, and didn't even bother to check if I survived. And now you show up here and expect me to just hand over the children I've raised? The children you thought were dead, and apparently grieved for all of 5 minutes before moving on. I grieved. His voice broke. Every day for 5 years, I grieved. I buried empty caskets. I commissioned monuments. I hated myself for not being there when they supposedly died, for failing to protect them. Then, where were you? I demanded. When Celine told you they died? Where were you? Managing a border dispute with the Western Territories. I was 3 days' travel away when I got the message. He looked away. By the time I returned, she'd already had them cremated, or so she said. The pieces clicked into place. Celine hadn't just abandoned the boys. She'd orchestrated an elaborate lie to cover it up. She'd played on Damon's absence, his trust, his grief. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. I'm sorry she did that to you, but it doesn't change anything. These boys know me as their mother. Ripping them away from the only home they've ever known would traumatize them. So, what do you suggest? I hadn't expected that. Hadn't expected him to ask, to show any willingness to compromise. I don't know, I admitted. But I won't let you take them unless I'm certain they'll be safe and loved. Damon was quiet for a long moment, watching Ash and River play with their wooden animals. His expression was unreadable. Then his eyes met mine, and something in them made my breath catch. You, he said softly. It's you. What? My wolf. He's been going insane for the past hour, saying the same thing over and over. Damon took a step closer. You. It's always been you. The bond I'd thought was severed 5 years ago suddenly flared to life, not broken after all, just dormant, waiting. That's impossible, I whispered. Is it? His voice was rough. Or did I make the biggest mistake of my life when I rejected you? Don't forget to subscribe. Chapter 4. The Impossible Bond. I stepped back, shaking my head. No, absolutely not. Kira, you don't get to do this. My voice was trembling with anger, with fear, with something else I refused to name. You don't get to show up after 5 years and claim some mystical bond awakening. You rejected me, Damon. You severed our mate bond. I thought I did. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. But my wolf is telling me I was wrong, that the bond never truly broke. It just went dormant because I was a disappointment. I finished bitterly, because I couldn't give you what you needed. Because I was an idiot who didn't understand what a true mate bond meant. The boys had stopped playing, sensing the tension in the room. River moved closer to me, his small hand finding mine. Ash watched Damon with those golden eyes that mirrored his father's, curious and cautious. "Who is he, Mama?" River asked quietly. I knelt down, pulling both boys close. "He's someone I used to know, someone important." "Is he going to stay for dinner?" Ash asked. "We're having vegetable stew." The innocence of the question made my heart ache. They had no idea that this man could take them away from me, that he had every legal right to claim them, that their entire world was balanced on a knife's edge. Damon's expression softened as he looked at them. "I would love to stay for dinner, if your mama says it's okay." Both boys turned to me with hopeful eyes, and I knew I couldn't say no, not without explaining things they were too young to understand. "Fine," I said. "But just dinner. Then we need to talk. Alone." The next hour was surreal. I prepared the stew while Damon sat awkwardly at my small table, clearly out of place in the modest cabin. The boys warmed up to him quickly, too quickly for my comfort. River showed him his collection of interesting rocks. Ash demonstrated how he could count to 50. Damon listened with an intensity that surprised me. He asked questions, laughed at their stories, and looked at them like they were the most precious things in the world. It was the way a father should look at his sons, and it terrified me. After dinner, I put the boys to bed. They protested, wanting to stay up and talk to the visitor, but eventually their exhaustion won out. I tucked them in, kissed their foreheads, and promised I'd be right in the next room. When I returned to the main room, Damon was standing by the fire, staring into the flames. "They're incredible," he said, without turning around. "Smart, kind, happy. They are. You did that. You raised them to be that way." He finally looked at me. "I owe you everything, Kira. You saved their lives, and gave them a childhood I never could have. Don't." I wrapped my arms around myself. "Don't try to manipulate me with gratitude. Just tell me what you want." "I want them back. I want to be their father." He paused. "And I want you. You can't have me. That ship sailed 5 years ago when you decided I wasn't good enough. I was wrong." He crossed the room, stopping just out of reach. "I was wrong about everything. I thought being a good king meant prioritizing bloodlines and heirs over everything else. I thought love was a weakness I couldn't afford. I thought," his voice broke, "I thought I could force myself to love Celine the way I loved you." "Don't say that. It's true. From the moment our bond snapped into place, you were all I could think about, but I was terrified of what the pack would think if I chose a mate who couldn't give me biological children. Terrified of appearing weak or making a decision based on emotion rather than logic. So you rejected me, and chose someone who could breed for you." "Yes." He didn't flinch from the harsh words. "And I've regretted it every single day since. Celine was beautiful and fertile, and from a powerful family, but she was cold, distant. She saw our sons as obligations, not gifts. She never wanted to be a mother. She wanted to be a queen, and I was so blind, so caught up in doing what I thought was right for the kingdom, that I didn't see what she really was until it was too late. She tried to kill them," I whispered. "Your sons." She looked at them and decided they weren't worth the inconvenience. "I know." Damon's hands clenched into fists. "And when I find her, I will make sure she pays for what she's done. But right now, my priority is my sons. And you. There is no one me. I'm just the woman who happened to find them. You're their mother. You're my mate. Those aren't insignificant things. I was your mate 5 years ago, and it didn't matter then. It matters now." He took another step closer, and I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "My wolf recognized you. the moment I saw you tonight, not just as someone familiar, but as mine, as ours. The bond never broke, Kira. It was just waiting. Waiting for what? For you to realize I had something you wanted after all. Waiting for me to grow up and understand what actually matters. His eyes met mine, and the intensity in them made me shiver. I don't care about heirs anymore. I don't care about bloodlines or political alliances, or what the pack thinks. I care about those two boys sleeping in the other room, and I care about the woman who loved them enough to sacrifice everything for them. You don't know me anymore. Then, let me learn. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Let me prove I'm not the same man who rejected you. Let me be the father they deserve, and the mate you should have had from the beginning. And what happens when you realize this is just guilt talking? When the bond fades again, and you remember all the reasons you rejected me? That won't happen. You can't know that. I can. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and took my hand. The moment our skin touched, electricity shot through me, the mate bond flaring to life with an intensity that stole my breath. Feel that? That's real. That's what I was too stupid to recognize before. I pulled my hand away, even though every instinct screamed at me to lean into his touch. Physical attraction isn't love. No, but it's a start. He stepped back, giving me space. I'm not asking you to forgive me or trust me, or even like me. I'm asking for a chance. Let me get to know my sons. Let me prove I can be the father they need. And maybe, eventually, you'll believe that my feelings for you are real. And if I say no? His jaw tightened. Then I'll take this to the pack council. I'll claim my sons by blood right and fight you for custody. I'll win. You know I will. I'm the Alpha King. And you're a lone wolf living on the edge of territory with no pack protection. The threat hung in the air between us, cold and unmistakable. So it's blackmail, I said flatly. It's reality. But I'd rather not go that route. I'd rather we work together, as parents, to give them the best possible life. Together means what, exactly? Come back to the castle, you and the boys. Live there as my... He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Honored guests. The boys can adjust gradually to their true identity. You can oversee their care, and we can figure out what happens next. You mean I become your kept woman while you decide if I'm worth claiming publicly this time? That's not what I'm saying. Isn't it? I laughed bitterly. 5 years ago, you rejected me, because I couldn't give you heirs. Now you want me back, because I raised the heirs someone else gave you. Either way, my value is tied to those boys. You're wrong. He moved closer again, and this time I didn't retreat. 5 years ago, I made a choice based on fear and duty. It was the wrong choice, and it cost me everything that mattered. I'm not making that mistake again. Yes, I want my sons, but I also want you. Not because of them, because of who you are. The woman who saves abandoned pups in snowstorms. The healer who helps people too poor to see official doctors. The mother who raised my children to be kind and curious and loved. His words were everything I'd wanted to hear 5 years ago. Everything I'd dreamed about during those long, lonely nights, after my rejection. But I wasn't that naive girl anymore. I need time, I said finally. Time to think. Time to figure out what's best for Ash and River. How much time? I don't know. A few days. A week. Damon nodded slowly. Okay, but I'm not leaving this area. I'll camp nearby, and I'd like to visit, to start building a relationship with them. They don't know who you are. Then maybe it's time to tell them the truth. Chapter 5. Truth and Consequences. Damon left that night, but not before extracting a promise that he could return the next morning. I agreed, though every instinct told me I was making a mistake. I didn't sleep. I sat by the boys' beds, watching them breathe, memorizing the peaceful expressions on their faces. In a few hours, their entire world would change. They'd learn they weren't just Ash and River, children of a healer living quietly in the forest. They were princes, heirs to a kingdom, sons of an Alpha King. And I was terrified of what that knowledge would do to them. When dawn broke, I was already preparing breakfast. The boys woke up excited, remembering the visitor from the night before. Is he coming back, Mama? River asked, practically bouncing in his chair. Yes, sweetheart. In fact, he'll be here soon, and we need to have a talk about him. Ash's eyes narrowed. He'd always been the more perceptive of the two. What kind of talk? Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. Damon stood outside, looking nervous in a way I'd never seen from him before. He carried 2 packages wrapped in cloth. I brought gifts, he said awkwardly. Is that okay? The boys crowded around him immediately, curiosity overcoming any shyness. Damon knelt down to their level and handed each of them a package. River tore into his first, revealing a beautifully carved wooden wolf. Not a toy, but a work of art, detailed and lifelike, captured mid-howl. I made it myself, Damon said quietly. When I believed I'd lost you, I carved one for each of you. I've been carrying them for 5 years. Ash opened his more carefully, finding an identical wolf in a different pose. This one sitting alert, watchful. He ran his fingers over the smooth wood, then looked up at Damon with those 2 knowing eyes. You're our father, aren't you? The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Damon's face went pale. River's mouth fell open. I stood frozen, uncertain whether to intervene or let this moment unfold naturally. How did you? Damon started. You have the same eyes as us, Ash said matter-of-factly, and you smell like us. Pack, family. Mama's been sad since you arrived, the way she gets sometimes when she thinks we're asleep, and she looks at old things in her drawer, and you look at her the way the wolves in the forest look at their mates. 5 years old, and he'd pieced together what I'd been desperately trying to hide. River looked between us, processing. If you're our papa, where have you been? The simple question destroyed Damon. I watched him struggle for words, his composure crumbling. I thought you were gone, he finally said, his voice rough. Someone lied to me and told me you died when you were babies. I've spent 5 years believing I'd lost you before I ever got to know you, but I was wrong. You were here, safe, being raised by the most incredible woman I've ever known. Mama saved us, Ash said. She tells us the story sometimes, about the night she found us in the snow. Damon's eyes met mine, questioning. I nodded slightly. I told them a version of it, I said, that I found 2 babies who needed help, and I chose to keep them safe. I never told them who their parents were, because I trailed off, unsure how to explain without villainizing either Damon or Celine in front of children. Because it's complicated, Damon finished, and sometimes adults make mistakes that hurt people, even when they don't mean to. Did you make a mistake? River asked. Is that why you weren't there? Yes. Damon's voice broke. The biggest mistake of my life. I made a choice based on fear instead of love. And it cost me 5 years with you. 5 years I can never get back. But you're here now, Ash said, then with the brutal honesty of a child. Are you going to leave again? Never. Damon shook his head fiercely. I promise you, I will never leave you again. Not by choice. Not ever. Do we have to leave Mama? River's question was small, frightened. No, I said quickly, shooting Damon a warning look. No one is separating us. Your mama will always be your mama, Damon agreed. Nothing changes that. But I'd like to be part of your lives too, if you'll let me. The boys looked at each other in that silent communication way they had, conducting an entire conversation with just expressions and subtle gestures. Finally, they seemed to reach a consensus. Okay, Ash said. You can be our papa, but you have to prove you're good at it. How do I do that? By being here. By keeping promises. By making Mama smile instead of cry. Ash crossed his arms. She deserves to be happy. Damon looked at me, and the emotion in his eyes nearly undid me. She does, and I intend to spend every day trying to make that happen. The rest of the morning was surreal. Damon stayed for breakfast, fielding an endless stream of questions from the boys. They wanted to know everything. Where he lived, what he did, if he could fight, if he had a wolf form, why his eyes changed color. He answered every question with patience and honesty. When River asked if they were princes, Damon hesitated only briefly before nodding. You are. You're the heirs to the Northern Territories, but that doesn't mean you have to change who you are, or leave your home. We'll figure out what that means together. Do we get crowns? River asked excitedly. Eventually. Though I should warn you, they're heavy and uncomfortable. Do we have to wear fancy clothes? Sometimes. But I promise we can make time for getting dirty and playing in the forest too. Ash was quieter, more thoughtful. Finally, he asked the question I'd been dreading. What about our other mama? The one who... He glanced at me. The one from before? Damon's expression darkened. She's gone, and she doesn't get to be part of your lives. She made choices that hurt you, and I won't let her near you again. Did she not want us? Ash's voice was small. Some people aren't capable of being parents. I interjected gently. It's not about you being enough or lovable. It's about her not being able to give what you deserved. That's why I kept you. Because I knew I could love you the way you needed to be loved. And I wish I'd been there from the beginning, Damon added. But I'm grateful every day that Kira was. She saved you. She raised you. She raised you. She's your mama in every way that matters. The boys seemed satisfied with that answer, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. But I could see the question still lingering in Ash's eyes. He was too smart, too observant. Eventually he'd want the full truth. That afternoon, after the boys went outside to play, Damon and I stood on the porch watching them. They're remarkable, he said. You've done an incredible job with them. They're good kids. They make it easy. Don't diminish what you've done. He turned to face me. You gave them everything. Love, stability, safety, things I failed to provide. You didn't know they were alive. But I should have questioned it more. Should have demanded to see their bodies. Should have investigated Celine's story instead of just accepting it. I was grieving, yes, but I was also relieved. He closed his eyes. That's the terrible truth. Part of me was relieved not to have the responsibility, not to have to pretend to love a woman I'd chosen for duty, rather than affection. That's honest, at least. I'm tired of lying. To you, to myself, to everyone. He opened his eyes. I want to make this right, Kira. Not just for the boys, but for us. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm asking for one anyway. I need more than words, Damon. I need to see that you've actually changed, that you won't just revert to the man who rejected me the moment things get difficult. Then let me prove it. Come to the castle. Not as my kept woman or my secret, as my mate. Publicly. Let me claim you in front of the entire pack, the way I should have 5 years ago. My heart raced. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. He took my hand, and this time I didn't pull away. I love you, Kira. I've loved you since the moment our bonds snapped into place. I was just too much of a coward to admit it. And I love our sons. Yes, our sons, because you're their mother in every way that counts. Let me make us a family. A real family. The pack will never accept me. I'm the rejected mate. The broken woman. The one who couldn't give you heirs. The pack will accept what I tell them to accept. And you're not broken. You never were. I was the one who was broken. Broken by duty and expectation and the weight of a crown I never asked for. You put me back together, just by existing, by showing me what real strength looks like. I wanted to believe him. Goddess. I wanted it so badly it hurt. But I'd been burned before, and I had 2 children to protect now. I need time, I said again. This is too fast. Too much. The boys just learned you exist. We can't upend their entire lives in a day. How much time? I don't know, but I'm not making any decisions under pressure. Damon nodded, disappointment clear in his eyes, but acceptance too. Okay, I'll wait, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here every day, building relationships with my sons, and proving to you that I mean every word I've said. And if I decide I can't trust you, if I decide we're better off staying here, away from the politics and danger of the castle. His jaw tightened. Then we'll figure something out. But I won't be separated from my children again. Kira, one way or another, I will be part of their lives. It wasn't quite a threat, but it wasn't exactly a promise either. It was reality, complicated, messy, and unavoidable. Just like everything else between us. Chapter 6. The Unraveling. 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Damon came every day, always in the morning, always bearing small gifts, Books for the boys, herbs for my garden, firewood. He'd chopped himself. He never pushed, never demanded. He simply showed up and proved through actions that he meant what he'd said. He taught the boys to track animals in the forest. He helped me repair the cabin's roof. He sat quietly by the fire in the evenings and listened to their stories about their day. Slowly, carefully, he wove himself into the fabric of our lives. And I hated how much I wanted it to be real. The boys adored him. River followed him everywhere, chattering constantly, asking endless questions. Ash was more reserved, but watched Damon with keen intelligence, testing him in subtle ways, asking him to keep small promises, seeing if he'd remember details from previous conversations. Damon passed every test. But it was the way he looked at me that kept me awake at night, like I was something precious he'd lost and miraculously found again. Like 5 years hadn't passed. Like the rejection had never happened. The mate bond between us grew stronger each day, humming beneath my skin whenever he was near. My wolf, silent for so long, had awakened and yearned for him with an intensity that terrified me. Then everything changed. It started with a letter, delivered by one of Damon's guards. I watched his face as he read it, saw the color drain from his skin. "What's wrong?" I asked. "The pack council has called an emergency session." His voice was tight. "Someone's been spreading rumors about the boys, about you." My stomach dropped. "What kind of rumors?" "That I've found my supposedly dead sons alive, that they've been hidden away by a lone wolf, that I'm keeping them secret, because there's something shameful about the situation." He crumpled the letter. "Celine's family. They must have heard somehow, and they're trying to get ahead of the narrative." "What does that mean for us?" "It means I need to return to the castle immediately and address the council. I need to tell them the truth, that Celine abandoned our sons, that you saved them, that they're alive and well." He paused. "And I need you to come with me." "No. Kira. I'm not parading my children in front of your council like prizes to be judged and scrutinized. They're 5 years old. They don't understand pack politics or power games. They're not prizes. They're heirs. And the council needs to see them, needs to verify their identity, or this will turn into a political nightmare that could threaten their claim to the throne. Maybe they don't want to claim the throne. Maybe they're happy being regular children living quiet lives. That's not a choice we get to make for them." Damon's voice rose, and I saw the boys peek around the doorway. Worried, he forced himself to calm down. "I'm sorry, but this isn't just about what we want. There are laws, traditions, succession rights. If I don't present them formally, someone else will challenge their legitimacy. Celine's family will claim they're not really my sons, or that you manipulated the situation somehow. Let them claim whatever they want. We'll stay here, away from all of it." "You think they'll let you?" He grabbed my shoulders, not roughly but urgently. "Kira, listen to me. The moment this became public knowledge, you stopped being invisible. You're the woman who has the Alpha King's heirs. You're a threat to anyone who wants to see different bloodlines on the throne. If you stay here, unprotected, you're making yourself a target." I hadn't thought of that. Hadn't considered that saving the boys 5 years ago had put us all in danger. "Come to the castle," Damon said more gently. "Let me protect you. Let me claim you and the boys publicly, so no one can question your status or their legitimacy. It's the only way to keep you safe. Or it's a convenient way to control us." "It's both," he admitted. "I won't lie, having you at the castle, having the boys recognized as my heirs, it strengthens my position. But that doesn't mean I'm not also terrified of what could happen to you if you refuse. Please, Kira, trust me, just this once." I looked at the boys, still peeking around the doorway. They looked scared, picking up on the tension even if they didn't understand it. "I need to talk to them first," I said. "They deserve to know what's happening, and have a say in this decision." Damon nodded and stepped back, giving me space. I gathered Ash and River, sitting them down at our small table. "We need to have a serious talk." "Are we in trouble?" River asked. "No, sweetheart. But things are going to change. People now know that you're Papa's sons. Important people. And they want to meet you." "We don't want to meet them," Ash said firmly. "We want to stay here with you." "I know. But sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do to stay safe. I chose my words carefully. Papa has a big house, a castle. He wants us to come live there for a while, where he can make sure no one tries to hurt us. Would someone hurt us? River's eyes went wide. Not if I can help it, Damon interjected, kneeling beside the table. But there are people who might try, bad people who want power and don't care who they hurt to get it. At the castle, I have guards and walls and ways to keep you protected. Here, I can't do that as easily. What about Mama? Ash asked. Does she come too? Of course, Damon said immediately. I would never separate you from your mama. She's part of our family. Promise, River demanded. Promise she stays with us, no matter what. I promise. The boys looked at each other, having another one of their silent conversations. Finally, Ash spoke. Okay, we'll go, but only if Mama agrees, and only if we can come back here sometimes. Deal, Damon said. This will always be your home. We're just adding another place where you belong. I wanted to argue more, to find reasons to refuse, but looking at my sons, at their trust in both of us, at their willingness to be brave even when scared, I knew Damon was right. We couldn't hide anymore. When do we leave? I asked quietly. Tomorrow morning. I'll send guards tonight to help pack and ensure safe travel. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparation. The boys were excited despite their fear, chattering about what a castle might look like and whether they'd have their own rooms. I packed our meager belongings, my hands shaking as I folded their small clothes. That night, after the boys were asleep, Damon and I stood outside under the stars. I'm terrified, I admitted, of going back there, of facing the pack that watched me be rejected, of being judged and found wanting all over again. You won't be. He took my hand. This time, I'll be standing beside you, and anyone who disrespects you will answer to me. You can't fight the whole pack for me. Watch me. There was steel in his voice. I failed you once, Kira. I won't do it again. Tomorrow, when we arrive at the castle, I'm calling an immediate pack gathering, and I'm going to claim you, publicly, permanently. No more hiding, no more shame. You're my mate, and everyone will know it. The bond was rejected. You can't just... The bond was never truly severed. My wolf has been telling me that for weeks now, and tomorrow I'm going to prove it to everyone. He turned to face me fully. I love you. I've always loved you. And I'm done pretending otherwise. Before I could respond, he kissed me. It was gentle at first, tentative, as if asking permission, but when I didn't pull away, when I found myself kissing him back despite every logical reason not to, it deepened into something desperate and claiming. The mate bond roared to life between us, stronger than ever, and I felt it then, the truth he'd been trying to tell me. The bond had never broken. It had just been waiting, dormant, but not dead. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damon rested his forehead against mine. Tomorrow changes everything, he whispered. Are you ready? No, I wasn't ready. I'd never be ready. But I nodded anyway. Because ready or not, our quiet life in the forest was over. And whatever came next, political intrigue, pack judgment, the dangers of court life, we'd face it together. As a family. Chapter 7. The Return. The castle looked exactly as I remembered, imposing gray stone towers reaching toward the sky, walls that promised either protection or imprisonment depending on which side you stood on. I'd been here only once before, 5 years ago, on the night of my rejection. Now I was returning with 2 children who would either be celebrated as lost princes or scrutinized as potential imposters, and beside me rode the man who'd shattered my heart, asking me to trust him with the pieces. The boys pressed against the carriage window, eyes wide with wonder. It's huge, River breathed. Do dragons live there? Ash asked seriously. No dragons, Damon said from his horse beside our carriage, but there is a library with more books than you could read in a lifetime. That got Ash's attention. He was like me in that way, finding safety in stories, in knowledge, in the escape that pages provided. As we approached the main gates, I saw them, pack members lining the road, dozens of them, all staring at our carriage with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. Word had spread fast. "Mama, why are they looking at us like that?" River whispered. "Because they're curious," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You're important, remember? The Alpha King's sons. They want to see you." They look angry. Some of them might be. Change is scary for people. But Papa won't let anyone hurt us. Damon had heard. He moved his horse closer to the carriage, his presence a shield between us and the crowd. The gesture didn't go unnoticed. I saw pack members exchanging glances, whispering behind their hands. The rejected mate returning with the lost heirs. It was the kind of scandal that would fuel gossip for years. We entered the castle courtyard, and staff rushed out to greet us, or rather to greet Damon. They barely glanced at me until he spoke. "This is Kira Thorne, and my sons, Ash and River. They're to be treated with the utmost respect and given chambers in the family wing. Anyone who disrespects them answers directly to me." The authority in his voice left no room for argument. Servants bowed, though I caught the skeptical looks. Some of them exchanged. A woman stepped forward, older, elegant, with silver streaking through her dark hair. Damon's mother, the Dowager Queen. "Damon." Her voice was cool. "I received your message. These are the children?" "They are, Mother. This is Ash and River, your grandsons." She studied the boys with an expression I couldn't read. The boys shrank back against me, sensing she was someone important and potentially dangerous. "They have your eyes," she said finally, "and Celine's coloring." "They have Kira's heart," Damon corrected. "She saved their lives and raised them. They're here because of her." The Dowager Queen's gaze shifted to me, and I felt the weight of her judgment. The rejected mate. "How convenient that you happened to find my grandsons." "Convenient had nothing to do with it," I said, keeping my voice level. "I found 2 dying infants in a snowstorm, and chose to save them. I didn't know who they were at first. By the time I realized, they were already mine." "Yours?" Her eyebrow arched. "They're the heirs to the Northern Territories. They belong to the crown." "They're children," I said firmly. "They belong to themselves, and yes, they're mine. I'm the only mother they've ever known." Bold words from someone in your position. "Mother." Damon's voice was a warning. "Kira is under my protection. She and the boys will be treated as family, not prisoners or political pawns. Am I clear?" The Dowager Queen's lips thinned, but she nodded. "Crystal, though the Pack Council will have questions, many questions. I'm calling a gathering tonight. Everyone will get their answers then." "Tonight?" She looked alarmed. "Damon, that's not enough time to prepare." "I don't need time to prepare. I just need the truth." He dismounted and came to help us from the carriage. "Come, let me show you your rooms." The family wing was overwhelming. Our entire cabin could have fit inside the sitting room alone. The boys' chamber had 2 large beds, a play area, shelves waiting to be filled with toys and books, and windows overlooking the gardens. "This is ours?" River asked, in awe. "All yours," Damon confirmed. "My room is just down the hall, and your mama's is." He paused, looking at me. "Where would you like to be? I can put you in the room adjoining theirs, or..." "Adjoining is fine," I said quickly, not ready to examine what the "or" might have meant. My room was beautiful, too beautiful. A massive bed with silk sheets, a private bathing room, a balcony overlooking the forest. It was the kind of luxury I dreamed about as a young girl, before I learned that beauty often came with a price. A servant brought clothes, fine dresses in deep greens and blues, nothing like the simple homespun I was used to. I stared at them, feeling like an imposter. "You don't have to wear them if you don't want to," Damon said from the doorway. "I just thought, for the gathering tonight. The pack responds to symbols. If you look like you belong here, it's harder for them to question your place. And, if I don't want to belong here, then we'll figure something else out. But tonight, I need you to trust me." I nodded reluctantly. The rest of the afternoon passed in a haze. Servants helped me bathe and dress. Someone styled my hair. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked like a Luna, like someone who might actually belong beside an Alpha King. The boys were dressed in fine clothes too, though they kept tugging at the collars and complaining that everything was too tight. Damon appeared in formal attire, every inch the powerful ruler, and together we looked like a family portrait. Except we weren't a family. Not really. We were pieces forced together by circumstance and desperation. "Ready?" Damon asked, as evening approached. "No. Me neither." He offered his hand. "But let's do it anyway." The great hall was packed. Hundreds of pack members crowded inside, all waiting to hear the Alpha King's announcement. I felt their eyes on me as we entered. Judgment, curiosity, hostility. The boys gripped my hands tightly, overwhelmed by the crowd. Damon led us to the front, where the pack council sat in a semicircle. His mother was there, along with other high-ranking members I didn't recognize. They watched us with expressions ranging from skeptical to openly hostile. Damon stepped forward, his voice carrying through the hall with alpha authority. 5 years ago, I was told my sons died, shortly after birth. I mourned them. I honored their memory. I believed they were gone forever. He paused. I was lied to. Luna Celine abandoned our sons in a snowstorm, leaving them to die. They survived only because this woman, Kira Thorne, found them and chose to save them. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The council members leaned forward, suddenly very interested. "Where is Luna Celine now?" one of them demanded. "Gone. She fled 3 weeks ago, and we've been unable to locate her. But that's irrelevant. What matters is that my sons are alive. They're here, and they are the rightful heirs to this kingdom." "And the woman?" another council member asked, his tone skeptical. "The rejected mate, who conveniently appears with your lost heirs. How do we know this isn't some scheme?" "Because I know." Damon's voice cracked like a whip. "I verified their bloodline. They are my sons, and Kira Thorne is the woman who saved them, raised them, and loved them when no one else would. She deserves our gratitude, not our suspicion." "She's your rejected mate," the Dowager Queen said quietly. "You severed that bond 5 years ago, in front of everyone. Now you bring her back, expecting us to accept her, to accept this situation. I made a mistake." Damon's words echoed through the suddenly silent hall. 5 years ago, I rejected my true mate, because I was a coward, because I prioritized duty over love, bloodlines over bond, and I've regretted it every single day since." He turned to face me, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. "Kira Thorne, I rejected you once. It was the worst decision of my life, and I've spent 5 years paying for it. I can't undo that pain. I can't give you back what I took, but I can give you the truth." He dropped to one knee in front of the entire pack. "I love you. I've always loved you. And if you'll have me, if you'll give me a second chance I don't deserve, I want to claim you, properly, publicly, as my mate, my Luna, my equal in all things." The hall erupted. Voices rose in shock, approval, outrage. The boys pressed closer to me, scared by the noise, and I stood frozen, staring at Damon kneeling before me, offering everything I'd once dreamed of. But could I trust it? Could I trust him? Chapter 8. The Claim. The hall fell silent, waiting for my answer. Every eye was on me. The Pack Council, the Dowager Queen, hundreds of pack members who'd witnessed my rejection 5 years ago and were now watching to see if I'd accept the man who'd broken me. And Damon, still on his knee, his eyes holding mine with an intensity that made my chest ache. "Stand up," I said quietly. He rose slowly, uncertainty flickering across his face. I looked at the boys, clinging to my sides, their small faces confused and frightened by the spectacle. They didn't understand pack politics or mating bonds. They just knew their mama was upset, and their papa was making a scene. "You rejected me," I said, my voice carrying through the silent hall, in front of everyone. "You told me I wasn't enough, that I was broken, that I couldn't give you what you needed. I was wrong. Let me finish." My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. "You threw me away like I was worthless. My own father disowned me. I lost everything. My mate, my family, my place in the pack. I spent months wanting to die, because the pain of your rejection was too much to bear." Damon's face crumpled. "Kira. But I didn't die. I survived. I built a life out of nothing. I became someone I could be proud of, and when I found 2 dying babies in a snowstorm, I didn't hesitate. I didn't care whose they were or what saving them might cost me. I just knew they needed love, and I had love to give. I looked down at Ashen River, my boys, my heart. I raised them alone for 5 years, fed them, clothed them, healed them when they were sick, held them when they had nightmares. I taught them to be kind and brave and curious. I loved them with everything I had, even knowing that someday someone might try to take them from me. No one is taking them from you, Damon said hoarsely. Aren't you? I met his eyes. By bringing us here? By claiming them publicly as heirs? You've changed everything. They can't just be my boys anymore. They have to be princes. They have to carry the weight of a crown they never asked for. They can be both, he insisted. Your sons and my heirs. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And what about me? What am I supposed to be? Your convenient Luna because I happened to raise the children you needed? Your redemption story? Your second chance? You're my mate. His voice broke. My true mate. The bond never broke, Kira. I felt it the moment I saw you again. My wolf recognized you, claimed you, needed you, not because of the boys, because you're mine, and I'm yours, and I was an idiot to ever deny it. Pretty words, I said. But I've heard pretty words before, right before you shattered me. A council member stood. This is highly irregular. The mating bond was formally rejected. It cannot simply be reinstated. Yes, it can. The voice came from the back of the hall. An elderly woman pushed through the crowd. The pack's high priestess, the one who'd presided over my original mating ceremony. A rejection severs the bond. Yes, but only if both parties accept the severance. If one party never truly let go, if their wolf never stopped claiming the other, then the bond lies dormant, not dead. She approached us, her ancient eyes moving between Damon and me. Tell me, Alpha King, did your wolf ever accept the rejection? Did he ever stop calling for his mate? No. Damon's answer was immediate. He howled for her every single night. Even when I took Celine as my chosen mate, my wolf refused to recognize her. He paced and raged and mourned. I thought it was just grief, but it wasn't. It was him knowing I'd made a terrible mistake. The priestess turned to me. And you, Kira Thorne, did your wolf accept the severance? I wanted to say yes, wanted to claim I'd moved on, healed, become someone who didn't need him. But my wolf stirred inside me, and I felt the truth. No, I whispered. She retreated, went silent, but she never stopped recognizing him as ours. Even when I hated him, even when I tried to forget him, she remembered. Then the bond can be restored. The priestess looked at the council. The rejection was incomplete. The mate bond remains, dormant but intact. If both parties consent, it can be fully realized. This is unprecedented, the Dowager Queen protested. So is Aluna abandoning the Alpha King's heirs to die in a snowstorm. The priestess shot back. So is a rejected mate, saving those same heirs and raising them in secret for 5 years. So is an Alpha King kneeling before his entire pack and admitting his mistakes. Nothing about this situation is precedented. Why should the resolution be? She was right. All of this was unprecedented, messy and complicated, and nothing like the fairy tales promised. But maybe that was okay. Maybe real love wasn't supposed to be neat and easy. Maybe it was supposed to be hard-won and scarred, and all the more precious because of what it cost. I looked at Damon, really looked at him. Not at the Alpha King who'd rejected me, but at the man who'd shown up every day for 3 weeks, who'd patiently won over my sons, who'd listened when I said no, and respected my boundaries, who'd protected us when danger threatened, who'd just humiliated himself in front of his entire pack, because he valued truth more than pride. He wasn't perfect, he'd hurt me terribly, but he was trying, genuinely, desperately trying to be better. And maybe that was enough. If I accept this, I said slowly, there are conditions. Hope flared in Damon's eyes. Anything. The boys don't get forced into royal duties until they're ready. They get to be children first, princes second. Agreed. I'm not just a decoration. If I'm Luna, I have real power, Real say in pack decisions. Absolutely. And if you ever make me feel worthless again, if you prioritize politics over family, if you choose duty over us, I'm gone. And I'm taking the boys with me. I don't care about laws or succession. They're my sons, and I will protect them above everything else. I would expect nothing less. Damon took my hands. You are the strongest person I've ever known, Kira. The idea that I once thought you were broken is laughable. You're fierce and brave, and you've survived things that would have destroyed lesser people. I don't want you as some submissive Luna, who just nods and agrees with me. I want you as my equal, my partner, someone who will call me out when I'm being an idiot, and stand beside me when things get hard. They will get hard, I warned. The pack doesn't trust me. Your mother hates me. Celine's family will cause problems. And these boys, I looked down at Ash and River. They're going to have questions as they get older. Hard questions about why their birth mother abandoned them. About what that means. About who they're supposed to be. We'll handle it. Together. Damon's grip on my hands tightened. I'm not promising perfection. I'm promising effort. Every single day, I will choose you. Choose us. Choose our family. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I looked at the boys again. What do you think? Should we stay? River nodded enthusiastically. I like it here. And Papa promised I could learn to fight. Ash was more thoughtful. Will you be happy, Mama? Really happy? Such a perceptive question from someone so young. I think so, I said honestly. I think I can be, if we're all together. Then we stay, Ash decided. He looked up at Damon with those knowing golden eyes. But if you make her cry again, we'll be very angry with you. Noted, Damon said seriously. I took a deep breath and turned back to face the hall, to face the pack that had once watched me be rejected. I accept, I said, clearly. I accept Damon Blackwood as my mate. I accept the role of Luna, and I accept the responsibility of raising the future heirs of the Northern Territories. But I do it on my terms, as an equal, as a partner, not as someone lesser or broken, or grateful for scraps of affection. You were never lesser, Damon said softly, and anyone who treated you that way will answer to both of us. The priestess stepped forward, then let us complete what was interrupted 5 years ago, the mating ceremony. What followed was a blur. Ancient words spoken, blood mingled, the pack's acknowledgement given, when Damon marked my neck, the claiming bite that would announce to everyone that I was his mate. The bond roared to life between us. It was nothing like the dormant thread that had connected us before. This was fire and lightning, and coming home all at once. I felt his emotions, his love, his fierce determination to make this work, and through the bond, he felt mine, my fear, my hope, my tentative trust. When it was done, we faced the pack as mates, as partners, as a family. The boys cheered, breaking the formal solemnity, and the pack laughed. Even the Dowager Queen smiled slightly, though her expression remained skeptical. But I didn't care about the skeptics. I cared about the man standing beside me, the boys holding our hands, and the future we were building together. It wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, political intrigue, threats from Celine's family, the constant pressure of raising heirs while keeping them grounded. But we'd face it together. That night, after the boys were asleep in their new chambers, Damon and I stood on my balcony overlooking the forest. Do you regret it? He asked quietly. Accepting me? Ask me in a year, I said. Then softer. But no, I don't think I will. You're not the man who rejected me anymore, and I'm not the woman who needed your approval to know my worth. I love you, he said. I should have said it 5 years ago. I should have fought for you instead of letting fear control me. But I'm saying it now. Every day, for the rest of our lives, I'll say it. I love you too, I admitted. I probably never stopped, even when I wanted to, even when I tried. He pulled me close, and for the first time in 5 years, I let myself believe in happily ever after. Not because it was guaranteed, but because we were both willing to fight for it. Epilogue. 6 months later. The boys ran through the castle gardens, laughing as they chased butterflies. They'd adjusted remarkably well, still the same curious, kind children they'd always been, just with fancier clothes and the occasional royal lesson. Damon had kept his promises. All of them. He included me in pack decisions. He prioritized family time. He loved the boys fiercely, and loved me even more fiercely. And I'd learned to trust again. Slowly, carefully, but genuinely. I was standing in the library when the messenger arrived, breathless and agitated. Luna Kira. There's a woman at the gates. She claims to be Luna Celine. She's demanding to see her sons. My blood ran cold. Damon appeared at my side instantly, the mate bond alerting him to my distress. What did you say? The messenger repeated the message. Damon's eyes flashed gold. She doesn't get near them. Not ever. She's their birth mother, the messenger said uncertainly. Doesn't she have rights? She has no rights, I said firmly. She abandoned them, tried to kill them. She doesn't get to walk back into their lives, now that they're valuable. But even as I said it, I knew this was far from over. Celine's return would bring complications we hadn't prepared for, questions about maternal rights, about the boy's true parentage, about what really happened that night in the storm. But as I looked at Damon, felt the strength of our bond, remembered the family we'd built together, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. And no one, not Celine, not the Pack Council, not fate itself, would tear our family apart.